Good evening and welcome to the San Bruno City Council meeting of September 9th, 2014. I want to thank the Garden Club for the flowers they always provide for our meetings. Very nice. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Salazar.
Here.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Here.
Mayor Ruane.
Here.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Here.
David Waltering, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a number of announcements this evening. First of all, today marks the 4th anniversary of the tragic PG&E explosion in the Crestmore neighborhood. This is an occasion for remembrance. We all just came back from there, attended a very well attended, actually, celebration and remembrance of that evening and the people that were lost in that explosion. The community continues its journey towards recovery with celebration of the reconstruction of homes and the return of families to the neighborhood. We will close tonight's meeting with a moment of silence in memory of the 8 residents that lost their lives. Next announcement, the city clerk announces vacancies on commissions, boards, and committees due to expired terms and invites residents to apply no later than Friday, October 3rd, 2014. Let me see. Carol, you have something?
Roughly half of the terms on our commissions, boards, and committees will be expiring on October 31st. Those expiring members have until October 3rd to apply for reappointment. I'm also inviting any interested San Bruno residents 18 and over to apply as well. For more information, you can call my office at 616-7058 or email me at cbonner@sanbruno.ca.gov.
Thank you. Also on September 27, 2014, the city will be holding a Centennial Carnival at City Park from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I think we're going to get a little update on that later. Later, right. And we are also going to have item D under announcements. I'd asked Mr. Reekle, our representative on the Mosquito Abatement District, to give us an update on West Nile.
Honorable Mayor, thank you. City Manager Jackson and the Council. As your trustee to the San Mateo County Mosquito and Vector Control District, I'm here to give you an update on the recent finding of a red hawk collected in San Bruno City Park that showed positive for West Nile virus. San Mateo County Mosquito and Vector Control District put out a notice this last Friday on the finding of a red hawk that tested positive for carrying West Nile virus. Subsequent to this notice, the district provides the following update. Peninsula Humane Society Animal Control picked up a sick red-tailed hawk from San Bruno City Park. They didn't give me the exact location within the park. The bird died in the care of the Humane Society and West Nile virus was suspected. They submitted it to the San Mateo County Mosquito and Vector Control for testing. The bird tested positive on Friday, September 5th. The district is trapping mosquitoes in the surrounding area to look for the presence of West Nile virus and mosquitoes. And update that I got late this afternoon, tests have not been completed yet. If the tests are positive, the district will contact City Manager Jackson, and either way I will find out what the results are. The district goes on to remind residents to check their properties for standing water. If anyone is experiencing mosquito problems, they should call the district for help at 344-8592. The district also asks residents to report dead birds and tree squirrels to the West Nile virus state hotline number, which is 1-877-WNV-BIRD, or use the form online at www.westnile.ca.gov. The district continues to remind residents to dump all standing water, use repellents containing DEET, wear long-sleeve clothing in mornings and evenings when the mosquitoes are more prevalent, and again, report dead birds and squirrels to the 1-877-WNV-BIRD number. The district and I specifically want to thank the City of San Bruno for their immediate posting of Fight the Bite information on its web page, front page, running an additional information site on Cable Channel 1, for making an announcement that Friday night at Music in the Park, making an announcement that Friday night at Movies in the Park, and also advising the Parks Department to be extra observant for dead birds and squirrels. And obviously, if you have any questions or questions come up, either I or the district will get you answers. And thank you for the time.
All right, thank you, Robert. Item number 4, presentations. We have a presentation this evening. We're going to present a proclamation declaring September 2014 as National Prostate Cancer Awareness Month in San Bruno. I'll read this. Whereas prostate cancer is the most frequently diagnosed cancer in men aside from skin cancer, and it is estimated that 1 in 7 men will develop this disease in their lifetime. And whereas the American Cancer Society estimates there will be 233,000 new cases of prostate cancer in the USA in 2014, resulting in an estimated 29,480 deaths. And whereas early prostate cancer usually has no symptoms, and studies suggest strong familiar predisposition may be responsible for 5 to 10% of the disease cases, and recent studies suggest that a diet high in processed meat or dairy foods may be a risk factor, and obesity appears to increase risk of aggressive prostate cancer. And whereas the survival rate approaches 100% when prostate cancer is diagnosed and treated early, but drops to 28% when it spreads to other parts of the body. Now, therefore, I, Jim Ruane, the Mayor of the City of San Bruno, do hereby proclaim September 2014 as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month in the City of San Bruno, and urge all men in our community and throughout the country to become aware of their own risk of prostate cancer, talk to their healthcare providers about prostate cancer, and whenever appropriate, get screened for the disease. And I will accept this on behalf of all prostate cancer victims and survivors, because I am, in fact, a survivor for over 16 years. And I did what it said, get screened, get tested, and get healthy. So thank you very much. Review of the agenda. I'd like to move item 11, which is the annual report of the Planning Commission, to right after public hearings. That's all right. Approval of the minutes of regular City Council meeting of August 26, 2014. Any errors, corrections, omissions? Seeing none, they'll be accepted as submitted. Consent calendar. All items are considered routine or implemented earlier council action and may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless requested by a council member, citizen, or staff. Any action on the consent calendar?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion and a second on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 8, public hearings. There are no public hearings this evening, so we're going to move right to 11, which is the receive the annual report from the Planning Commission.
Honorable Mayor and council members, this is the 2013 Planning Commission report to the City Council and our 2014-2015 outlook. Last year, the chair of the Planning Commission was Commissioner Biasati, Vice Chair Peterson, Commissioner Marshall, Mary Lou Johnson, Commissioner Chase, myself, and Commissioner Samut were the other members on the commission. And last year's liaison from the council was Mayor Jim Romaine. Let's see. Before I begin, I wanted to thank Commissioner Marshall for his 17 years of service in the Planning Commission. I think early this year, around April of 2014, he resigned, and it's 17 years of service that we would be lacking, and it's a huge contribution. Just wanted to put it out there that, you know, we do attend 2 Planning Commission meetings on a full schedule, ARC reviews, visiting sites. It's quite a commitment, and he was doing it for 17 years, and being a devoted volunteer was definitely helpful to have him on the board, and we'll miss him and his expertise. Some of the significant activities of 2013. Planning Commission actually had had a final approval or a final recommendation of the Transit Corridor Plan around late 2012, and we had forwarded it to the City Council for review and approval around February of 2013. The Crestmore neighborhood rebuilding, the houses were approved by the ARC committee, the Architectural Review Board, Architectural Review Committee, instead of coming to the Planning Commission. That was definitely helpful in expediting several projects. There were 3 in particular that were able to move forward as part of an ordinance amendment, and obviously it helped in terms of time to get those houses rebuilt. As far as commercial and residential projects are concerned, we had an increased activity. So as a reference, 2012 we processed 12 applications, and in 2013 we had 20 applications. And 2014, pending to date, we've approved, pending or approved 16, and it's only September, which and there were no big projects last year, but there is one big project this year, which is the the project on the corner of Sept Avenue, which I'll get into later on. As far as the goals for 2014, 2015, continuing with assisting the rebuild of the Crestmore neighborhood. I believe there's a design coming to the Planning Commission later on this year that involves those 9 projects, if I'm not mistaken, and they'll be coming in as one project or one approval. We also have the zoning code update. There is additional study sessions that will be scheduled, and the review of the new code language as well as recommendation to the City Council. This is the cemetery project I was just referring to. It is one that we had go through the Architectural Review Board Committee about a month ago, if I'm not mistaken, 3 weeks ago, and obviously we're looking forward to continue processing quality projects and applications. We do anticipate an increase in activity, with this one being one of the first ones.
Just for the public, this is the old cinema site, is that correct?
This is the old cinema site on the corner of El Camino and Cemetery Avenue. So cinema site, there's 2 sports bars. Right. Is there anything else? That's it. Okay. So I think this is one of our final slides on the outlook. As far as 2014, 2015 is concerned, there are 3 other projects. So one is the hotel at the crossing. The second is the Glenview Terrace, which has 30 single-family homes, as well as the National Avenue Apartments, which was brought to my attention today. That is one of the other new projects that we should be considering at the end of this year or early next year. The Planning Commission would like to thank the City Council for setting policy direction, and we look forward to continued collaboration on the zoning code update. I also wanted to obviously thank the planning staff and the department itself, because we can't have quality applications if we don't have quality staff. So that's one of the key drivers and components of making our jobs easier. And we're looking forward for a full implementation of the transit corridors plan, including the assisting of educational outreach regarding Measure N, the ballot initiative that the City Council has placed on the November 4th, 2014 election to implement the transit corridor plan by allowing increased building heights above ground building garages and increased residential densities only within the transit corridors area as recommended by that adopted plan. And we're looking forward to the implementation of the TCP, as well as Measure N after the public has had a chance to vote on it. So that's one of the bigger things I'm looking forward to, as well as the zoning code update. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Great, and the City Council would like to thank you for all of your efforts, and the Planning Commission. All our boards, commissions, and committees are volunteer and are really the lifeblood of this city, big foundation. I had the pleasure of serving on the Planning Commission before I got on the City Council, and it's one of the more active ones where you said earlier, you actually get to go visit sites, meet people, and get right into the nuts and bolts of how things are done. So we appreciate all your efforts, all your time. Thank you very much, and please relay that to the rest of the commission.
I will. Thank you. Thanks.
Oh.
Irene?
Yes, thank you. We instituted these reports many years ago now so that we could hear what was going on. And the other piece of this is that the commissioners who give the reports, we always ask them, or try to ask them, if there's anything that we can do as a city or as a city council to help you make your job, help make your job easier. And because of those questions over the years, we did do the design guideline and several other different changes. So maybe you haven't had a chance to think of anything right now, but in the next month or so, I don't know who I'm not your liaison now, am I? Rico's the liaison. So if you think of something, I'm sure Rico would bring it back to us. Or unless you have something now in mind that the council can help you with.
No, at this point, I'm just looking forward to the ballot initiative. That's and
It's big.
how it's going to be implemented, and yeah, looking forward to that. So
Okay.
guidance
Sounds
on
good.
that would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 9, public comment on items not on the agenda. It is the council's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and/or action. Where appropriate, the Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter not agendized pursuant to state law. If you want to address the council, just tell us your name and street.
My name is Thomas Langhans. I live on Pine Street.
Okay.
Honorable Mayor and council members, I have been interested in astronomy since I was a teenager. I have a professionally manufactured observatory in my backyard, which I properly permitted and installed in 1981. All of the neighbors except one have been very cooperative about keeping their outdoor lighting from trespassing onto my observatory. The other member has an obscenely bright and completely unshielded lights to illuminate his backyard. These lights also illuminate my backyard and the sky above and beyond his and my properties. He has refused on several occasions my and my wife's offers to pay for installation of properly shielded lights that would only illuminate his property. The San Bruno Police and Building Departments tell me that there are no city codes or laws that cover this situation. Therefore, it appears that anyone could illuminate my property as bright as day if they wanted to, and I would have no recourse. I consider this situation similar to someone playing loud and offensive music that would prevent me from enjoying my property. This situation is ruining my and my wife's retirement years, and I feel it is affecting our physical and mental health as well as I can now no longer enjoy a hobby which I have had for the most of my life. I feel the city of San Bruno needs to have some means of addressing a situation such as this. And I would also like to know if there are any considerations for adjusting these new streetlights that we have if they trespass on somebody's property. Since these lights do not shine light parallel to the surface and only down like this, could they be adjusted some if necessary to keep the light from impinging on my observatory? So I thank you for your time.
Good, thank you. As I said earlier, we really can't take action on this evening, but you've said your piece and it's referred to staff, so we'll look into both of those issues for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. Conduct of business, item 10. We're going to look at adopting a resolution authorizing the city manager to do two things. First, execute a funding agreement with the San Mateo County Transportation Authority to accept Measure A pedestrian and bicycle project funding in the amount of $300,000, and to appropriate $30,000 from Measure A local streets and transportation program funding for city's contribution.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, William Lee, Management Analyst with Public Services. The city, with council authorization back in January, applied for Measure A pedestrian and bicycle program grant funding through the San Mateo County Transportation Authority. The TA approved funding for the El Camino Real Angus Avenue intersection improvements project in June and recently distributed funding agreements to all the awardees. The San Bruno specific agreement will commit the Transportation Authority to fund the project up to $300,000 with a local city match of 10% or $30,000, which was also authorized during the January meeting. City staff recommends that the $30,000 match comes from unallocated Measure A local streets and transportation funds. The unallocated amount currently sits at $1.1 million. The funding will enable the city to complete final design and construction for the intersection to allow for improved safety and accessibility. Improvements will include a second high-visibility crosswalk, ADA-compliant ramps, corner bulb outs, updated traffic signals, and median refuge improvements to ensure that if pedestrians crossing the street do not make it in time when the light turns red, that they have a safe place in the middle to stand. As we're all aware, the El Camino Angus intersection is one of the busiest intersections in the city for both pedestrians and motorists. It is the intersection that's right in front of the City Civic Center, which includes Fire Station 51, City Hall, and the Public Library. During the school year, pedestrian foot traffic also increases sharply because Decima Allen Elementary School is also located right behind the Civic Center. And motorists, of course, use the road to get to various locations in town because of its close proximity to downtown San Mateo Avenue, the Tanforan Shopping Center, various public transit connections and stops, and also major freeway entrances. The intersection itself has also been identified for improvement in many of the city's planning documents, including the Transit Corridors Plan, the San Bruno General Plan, the Community-Based Transportation Plan, and the Complete Streets Policy. It is also part of the Grand Boulevard Initiative and the Complete Streets Case Study. And during the city's presentation back in September 2013 for the case study, the city agreed with the council recommendation to pursue various funding opportunities for the Grand Boulevard Initiative, even if maximum funding would only allow for certain sections to be funded at a time. Based on the agreement terms, the design work is to be completed within 2 years of when the agreement is fully executed, and construction within 3 years of the point when design has been completed. All funds related to the scope of work that's pertinent to the agreement must be expended by 2019. Out of the total $330,000 allocated to the project, $60,000 is allocated to design, with $50,000 coming from the Transportation Authority and $10,000 from the local match. And in terms of construction, $270,000 is allocated. $250,000 of that is from the Transportation Authority, and $20,000 will be the local city match. The project will be incorporated into the Transit Corridor Pedestrian Connection Improvement CIP project for the 2014-19 budget that's upcoming. The Transit Corridor CIP project was chosen because the improvements, goals, and overall vision of that CIP project are in line with what the intersection project aims to accomplish, which is to improve the safety, accessibility, and transportation network connections within the San Bruno Transit Corridor. That concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Good. Any questions? Ken?
No questions. It was a great project. I'm proud to say that I do sit on the CCAG Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee board, and former employees Clara Fabre and Tina Sang worked on this project, and I distinctly remember Tina's presentation, and I have to say that the entire committee was very impressed with the project, and we're competing with, you know, it's a few $1 million, but when every project is a few $100,000, it's, you know, it's difficult to make an impression, and this project is obviously speaks for itself and was recognized by by the committee and then eventually by CCAG to approve it. And so I'm very proud that we were able to get this good chunk of money to, make that improvement.
Thank you. Any other questions or action by the council? Can we do this with one adoption? Okay.
With that, I'll introduce the resolution.
Councilmember Ibera.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10B, receive a report providing an update on the city's year-long centennial celebration and budget status. Carrie Burns.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm going to take just a second to switch out the slideshow. Thank you.
Carrie, you want to pull that chair a little bit closer to you?
Yes.
There you go. Perfect.
Fantastic. So good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. It's my pleasure this evening to provide the council with an update on the city's centennial activities and programs that have yet to be delivered. As the council is aware, over 4 years ago, you began preparing for this year-long celebration with an annual appropriation in the budget process to create some seed money for the programming. Most recently, in February, the City Council approved a long list of projects to deliver centennial events and programs to the community and appointed the mayor and the vice mayor as the City Council subcommittee for the centennial events. What I'd like to focus on this evening is an overview of the programs that have been delivered thus far, give you a little bit of background about how the community has received those, and then talk about 2 very special events that have yet to be delivered. So as the council is aware, on December 23rd, 2014, San Bruno will be celebrating its 100 years of incorporation. And in preparation for that, we've developed a website, a centennial logo and slogan, 100 Years of Progress. And as people who drive up and down San Mateo Avenue and Genevan have noticed, we have centennial banners, some of which are reflected in the slideshow behind me, as well as pictorial displays in the library and at City Hall, lapel pins, I think, which many of us are displaying this evening, and there is, of course, memorabilia with the centennial logo and slogan available for purchase. One of the important things that we wanted to focus on this year was taking existing events and giving them a bit of a centennial flair. So many of the photos that you're seeing behind me demonstrate that. For example, the 2013 tree lighting event in December was the kickoff of the centennial, and that event included snow or faux snow, actors in period costume, and special refreshments. And the event was enjoyed by more than 300 children and adults. Following on that was the annual pancake breakfast and Easter egg hunt that had a very robust turnout of more than 500 people. We had special craft projects and an Easter egg hunt with special collection bags with the Centennial logo on it, as well as expanded programming. Following then on the heels of that, and through partnership with the Beautification Task Force, Operation Clean Sweep kicked off its centennial tree planting with the objective of planting 100 street trees on various locations throughout the city on homeowners' property, or I guess on the city's right-of-way in front of homeowners' property. And then last but not least, with regard to the standard events that we have throughout the year, this year's Posey Parade included a city float that had photographs of past and present Posey Parade photographs on it. We also wanted to include cultural events in this year's year-long celebration. And in partnership with the San Mateo County Historical Association and Museum, in August we delivered a history walk, and then before that we offered an architectural walk earlier in the year. We also took advantage of children's interest in the Centennial to create some centennial opportunities for kids to understand their community better by delivering a scavenger hunt and including in the After-School Adventures program, the summer camp, and the summer reading program, various art and reading programs related to the centennial. So we've tried to include all members of our community in the celebration. Two capstone events, which I'd like to talk about a little bit, have yet to be delivered. And on September 27th, City Park will be transformed into a Centennial Carnival with field games and carnival games, rides, entertainment, and food. And a committee comprised of the Vice Mayor, members of the Park and Recreation Commission, and community volunteers have been working diligently for the last several months, developing the schedule of events and the wide array of opportunities that the community will have to come out to the mostly free of charge event to celebrate their city's centennial. The event begins at 10:30 a.m. again on Saturday, September 27th in City Park, and we'll have very brief initial ceremony and then rides and food and games. The pool will be open for everyone's enjoyment, and then at 3:30 that afternoon we'll sing happy birthday and have centennial cupcakes, and there will be the dedication of the centennial time capsule. We will also then on December 6th will be the Centennial Gala at Skyline College, and the elements of that program are still in the development stage. We expect that it will be a very special evening with dancing and a special centennial gift for all that are in attendance. We're trying to determine the price point on that, and it's looking as though it could be in the range of $100 per ticket. But more work is yet to be done to really work out the details. As I mentioned earlier, the City Council 4 years ago began focusing on the centennial by appropriating $10,000 a year for program activities. And so over the course of 4 years, there was $40,000 set aside. And then there was a very, very generous contribution from Artichoke Joe's, $53,000, $50,000 of which was for general centennial activities and $3,000 for specific children's competition to recognize the centennial. Also briefly like to tell you about what the budget looks like for the centennial activities. In total, we have $100,500 in revenue, which is comprised of the city budget set aside, the contribution from Artichoke Joe's, and then contributions that the business community and local churches and educational institutions have donated through their sponsorship of either the community carnival or the gala. The total budget at this point for the year-long activities is $99,150. Happy to say slightly less than the revenue number. And there are two expenses in particular that I'd like to point out, and those are the budget for the Community Day in the Park or the Centennial Carnival of $25,000, and then an appropriation of $35,000 for the gala. That concludes my overview. I would be happy to give you a whole bunch more details, but want to give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you have. The photos that I have behind me were photos that were taken at the various events that have been delivered so far this year, and I hope you enjoy them as much as the people who were in attendance seem to. Thank you.
Great. Any questions for Carrie at this time? I know you put an awful lot of effort into this as staff, and I know the Vice Mayor has put a lot of effort into the big day in the park, so we're looking forward to both events. Should be a lot of fun. Ken, did you have something?
I wanted to jump to the Centennial Gala, but I didn't want to overlook the Community Day in the park. What could you, I mean, do you want to make it a surprise, or do you want to give us an idea of what the community can expect when we come into the park? I mean, obviously, in the weekend, the park is very full, with patrons coming in, families, and so I'm assuming that's not going to happen this time.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any further questions?
So, I mean, short of that, then if that's the case, I mean, is there anything more you can tell us about the gala?
I'm pausing on the carnival to see if perhaps the vice mayor would like to make some remarks.
Well, I think Jim already took care of that answer for you. No. The committee has been meeting each Thursday now up to it, and we will be this Thursday having our next subcommittee meeting, and we will be finalizing the itinerary and activities and entertainment. So that will be ready to go and advertised by early next week. As far as the parking, you are correct. We have an expectation of a good crowd. Therefore, St. Robert's and St. Andrews have allowed their parking for that day. Staff has already taken the initiative to make sure that the senior center is not reserved that day, so the parking is available here. Even St. Andrews parking lot and the dirt lot that they have next to the property they are going to take care of and allow us to park that day. So we think with the park also, I think with the exception of one site, the park is also reserved that day. So we are hoping that it is a full community event, even with the street being closed during the duration so that people can enjoy each other's company and feel free to move around the park and enjoy. There was also one thing I would just like to add is that there is, thanks to the Rotary, working on the time capsule. And so a letter has gone out for items that will be presented at the community day in the park, and then a time capsule, we believe maybe at City Hall, will be sealed up, and we'll have to come up with a date in which I don't think I'll be around to see it open. But I saw the one out here for the Senior Center in 1987, but we can close that. So hopefully that answers a little bit more of your question on the. It will be coming back through the event special permit process. Staff will be bringing back to the council for consideration for that.
Great.
Just to follow up on the heels of what the vice mayor was adding, just to be very specific, in 2 weeks at your next meeting, we will be bringing back an item to close City Parkway. And probably within the next couple of days, a letter will go out to the affected neighborhoods so that they understand that this will be brought forward to the council for its consideration so that they're not surprised. I was remiss in mentioning two other important projects during the centennial. These are permanent projects that will live beyond the year-long celebration. The first is an action that the Council on the Culture and Arts Commission have taken, which is to install a centennial mosaic mural at Posey Park, and we're expecting that installation later this year. And then as part of the community day in the park or the Centennial Carnival, there will be a tile painting project where we'll have templates of the Centennial logo, the Centennial slogan, and the number 100 that children and adults can paint on a 4x4-inch tile, as well as other remarks, appropriate remarks that they would want to put on the tile. And we're not yet sure where the installation in the City Park Recreation Center general area will be. It really depends how many we have. But once we know that, we'll determine the best installation location. But there'll be a place where people can design their own centennial tile. And then last but not least, the La Peninsula Journal. The San Mateo County Historical Association and Museum invited the city of San Bruno earlier this year to work with the association to prepare a special centennial tribute journal. The association releases 4 publications annually, and they have reserved one of their publications just for San Bruno. And so within the next 2 to 3 weeks, in everyone's mailbox, they will receive a copy of the La Peninsula Journal, which will be San Bruno-specific history and highlights of the centennial.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions? Good report. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Finally, item 12, comments from council members. Irene is going to give us a report on her attendance at the League of California Cities annual conference in Los Angeles.
Thank you. I brought back a stack of things, and I wanted to go over some of the topics that I attended, the different topics, I guess, and I want to particularly draw your attention to, for all those commissioners and council people and staff that have to fill in Form 700. There are new ethic laws this year that they've introduced. So the very first thing I did was take 2 hours of a ethics class. We often take it online, but if you can actually go to a class, it was quite interesting and a little more lively, because the person giving it was telling us about their run-in with the Fair Political Practices Commission and the trial they had to go through. So that was quite interesting. The next thing I went to was the general open session, and the keynote speaker had just written a book called If Mayors Ruled the World. Ta-da! By his name is Dr. Benjamin R. Barber.
Sharp guy.
And he was, and it was almost an hour of why mayors do it right, and why the Senate and the President even don't have, they don't have the same kind of collaboration that mayors do. They don't have the same focus. They don't have the partisan issues that we see our Congress and Senate struggling with. So that was his focus, and if mayors ruled the world, which would be a wonderful thing. The next thing I went to was called, it was a keynote address given by Michael Pritchard, which some of you have seen. He's a stand-up comedian as well as many other things, but his emphasis was called team, and it's together, everyone and anyone matters. And so it was very inspiring about how we need to focus on each of us as well as the whole, and how we need to take care of each other. So that was great. The next thing I went to is called Bigger Than Fun, a fresh take on community building, which was given by the city manager and a director from Rancho Cordova. They were winners of the Helen Putnam Award, which all of you know about. And that was fun, and I brought back information about it. The next thing I did was enhancing neighborhood livability through the use of code enforcement. Receivership was another thing that I'll have to talk to the city attorney about. Sustainable development, the pathway to economic recovery. Resilience and prosperity was the next class I went to. I went to a lot of classes. Then each of the 12 Helen Putnam Award winners had a brief summary was given about their programs when they received their awards. And then they also had displays in the exhibit hall, and so I went to each one of them and got their information, which I will share, but some of it was really something, we do some of it, but it was refreshing to see different groups in different cities and how they tackled their problems. One of them was Fontana Arts, Enriching Life Through Arts, and they did the programs. They spent an hour telling me about it, but the bottom line with them was it revitalized their neighborhoods and brought in, believe it or not, a 33% increase in their business, because they did a bunch of different art projects. So I'll do that. This one was the Vallejo Participation Budget Program, which is an award-winning program, and the Vallejo was the very first city in the United States to do this kind of budgeting, and I have brought it to the city manager's attention. It might be something that the San Bruno Foundation looks at, because they had a very inclusive, aggressively inclusive budget community input about how to spend money, and they had different programs that they did. Another one was Live Well Ferris, which was a city that did a lot of healthy kinds of activities with very little money, and decreased obesity. Their city clerk ran a Lose It, or Biggest Loser contest, and they had all sorts of things with that. And then I went to all the vendors, and they had Recycle Ready House, which is, we might post this because it's how each house can equip itself with recycling water, like dishwashing water and things like that, and be reused. So it was very informative. And then this was fun. This was about the dog parks and different things you can do at dog parks, and different things for bicycle racks, and solar energy, and almost done. And this, I want you to know you got your money's worth. This was for the employees. It's a club that they can belong to where they get discount tickets. And this one is extremely important that we'll be wrestling with. This is about stormwater and how you finance big projects, which we'll be doing. And I have more, but I won't go into that. And then I wanted to say two things. The other piece of all this, you sit in classes and you take notes and you talk to people and you go and you look at the vendors and you get information. But another piece is interacting with all the different council people and city managers that are out there. And over 400 cities were represented at the conference. And I make it a point of going to sit at tables during lunches and breakfasts where I don't know anybody. And by the time you finish talking to everyone, you've learned at least one thing from everyone. So it's a really exciting, vibrant, energizing thing to go to. Next year's is going to be here at San Jose. And I challenge all of us to go and some of the city staff. And I hope you take me up on it. So that's what you got for your money.
Good report.
To the chair,
Irene?
to the vice mayor, Irene, it's inappropriate for today, but I'm just curious as to, what the other elected officials, the other communities, still know about San Bruno.
Actually, that's a good question, and a lot of people, you introduce yourself and they say, where are you from and where are you? And I say San Bruno, and they look at me and they say, oh. And 90% of the people who I introduced myself to knew what San Bruno was and why and how they knew it. Unfortunately, it is because of the explosion. And one gentleman was telling me he was in San Francisco when it happened, and he saw the plume of smoke and fire and was terribly moved at the luncheon that we were at. He was almost moved to tears by it. So people do know us that way, unfortunately, but I'm working toward moving us beyond that and letting other people know we have other things to offer in San Bruno. So the other thing I have to say, my message to them was make sure your first responders know where the pipelines are and how to turn them off.
Great. Any other comments from council members? All right, closed session. We don't have a closed session this evening. We'll go to adjournment. 4 years ago this very evening, we had a horrible tragedy, as you all know, in the Crestmore neighborhood. 38 homes were completely destroyed, incinerated. The neighborhood was rocked, and the city was traumatized, and we still are in a lot of ways. But this evening, we had a beautiful remembrance in the Crestmore neighborhood, attended by a great number of people that just want to reflect on what happened that evening and what we've all been through. Most tragically, though, 8 people lost their lives, and I would like to adjourn this meeting in their memory with a moment of silence. I thank you very much. This meeting is adjourned until September 23rd right here.